Well, we finally made it. This is the last piece, part 4, which also worked out to be the missing piece of my kick-ass ultimate cursive writing adventure, Crack the Cursive Code. And today we're going to be talking about how I had an idea that came up on April Fool's Day, no joke, and 30 days later, I self-published the third book in our series. As well, we're going to go into the connectors and how they were created and what challenge that brought about. We're also going to go over the 3 true killers of cursive, as well as a playful way of understanding what farts and cursive writing have in common, because the magic is in the mess. Well, hello, darling, and welcome to the Just Jax podcast. Hi, I'm Jax, and I help you find the can in your cat. When we challenge our cats, miracles happen, because when I challenged mine of I can't draw, I can't paint, and I can't color, imagine my surprise when I discovered what I can do is create a 21-foot garden mural that was recently featured not once but twice on the front page of our local newspaper. Next up, I challenge the I'm no author, no artist, and no cursive writing specialist, but what I can do is self-publish 3 books for my kick-ass cursive writing curriculum, Crack the Cursive Code. I'm a jack of all trades, but what I master in is helping ordinary people like me to do extraordinary things through laughter, tears, life-changing stories, because metaphors are my jam. Together we can find the can in your can'ts, the do's in your don'ts, and the wills in your won'ts. I'm so excited for you. Let's go. Well, hello, my darlings, and welcome back to the Just Jax podcast. Today we're going to have a little fun with Today, we're going to have a little fun with my third book in my series, the puzzle book, and how it came to be. I have just looked over my notes that I had created with AI, and together we have created a really kick-ass idea. So, working with AI, if you've never done that, there can be a lot of preconceptions with it. In doing this work, and in doing my marketing, I'm a really strong believer in the power of the word not. That is what I go into it in my third episode. But I really believe when we speak with the word not in our sentence, or we focus on the word not, our mind is really geared towards absorbing negative. But it's funny, it has a difficult time reading the negative. So when you say I don't want, it skips right over the not. It actually kind of like blanks out, and it actually absorbs what it says. So I don't want to smoke, or I don't want that person in my life. It'll take the not, ignore it, and go, I do want to smoke, and I do want that person in my life, because your energy of the sentence is what it actually feels. The word is irrelevant. It's actually processing the feeling that you're feeling. You might be thinking, Jax, what is this? All this fucking talk about the word not. Because if you're unhappy, you're dwelling on the not. You're not loved, not wanted, not enough, not pretty, not rich, not smart. All those juicy little knots. And again, you may think, oh, well, I rarely say the word not, but just like a granola bar that says it's good for you, but has the exact same calorie content as a chocolate bar, there's the contractions, remember? Can't. The apostrophe makes you think that you're no longer in the negative, and that is the trick, my friends. How many times do you say can't, won't, don't, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't? All of those, especially don't. That's a big one. So to do my marketing, anything that has to do with the word not or NT words, and the fucking thing can't do it. I just said it. The thing has a problem with it. I am human, have programmed myself to continuously speak with the word not. And I am challenging a computer that is supposed to be smarter than me and able to follow simple rules to ignore NT or not words. And it fails I'd say 99.9% of the time. It did it yesterday for the first time, where it gave me some kind of copy without the word not or nt words in it, because this machine struggles. And I am happy about that, because it is still a machine. And that should be a real simple rule. Instead, it's trying too hard to be like a human. And I guess we really use that word, because when I have affirmations that have nothing to do with the word not. There is no not in there. I want what I say in an affirmation to be true. I am the type of person that sets myself up for success. I am the type of person where everything works out for me. Those type of affirmations. I digress. But so when I tell you that AI is helping me with this, I have pounded the shit out of that machine to get it to give me what I want. It really likes to go on creative tangents that can be a little wackadoodle sometimes, or like, I never said that. So to get it to be what I want it to be has taken a lot of work with it. Yes, you can tell it to write a story and it will just do it. But if you want to write something that is accurate towards you and personalize it, it can take a lot of work to personalize it. And I have taken the work to do that. I had to dump my entire cursive story into this machine, and it did a kick-ass job of being able to keep me on track. So we will be using these questions that the machine created for me. If I say it like that, I discount the amount of work that I have put into it to create it. We have created these questions. So let's start. 1. You created this puzzle book from scratch. Why take on that challenge yourself? All right. It says how the idea came to you. The idea came to me one day when I was visiting one of those clinics, and it brought me back to when I was teaching Latin at my boys' school, their homeschool school. I had created different games like bingo to help teach Latin, etc., and how much fun it was for the kids to take some type of puzzle or some type of game to help learn something that can be considered boring, irrelevant, or difficult, which Latin fit all three of those, and so does cursive writing. So as I was visiting the clinic, an idea came to me of how I could make a word search out of cursive. And since my book was based on a font, then I could take it's amazing sometimes how much the ideas are, I could do that, and then how much time it takes. It's almost like a baby, because you think, oh, baby. At the time, you're like, that would be great. And then the labor. So the idea of doing a cursive word search is what started all of this. I just love word searches, and I thought a word search would help me bridge the gap also in age group, because I wanted to be able to make cursive accessible to all, and a word search kind of bridges the gap from grade 3 and up, because I made them challenging. They have 25 words in them, and that makes them quite a big puzzle. Having the font in cursive makes it even more challenging. When I first was doing the word search, it came to me that I needed to help with connecting the letters. A mom came to me at one of my homeschool conventions and told me that her kids could learn the individual letters, but did I have anything to help them learn how to connect them? The puzzle book came right after that event, and I thought, well, maybe I could do it here by doing E and B and B and E, and then having an alphabet with each letter, and that got way too complicated and difficult to do. And no. So I went through the Crack the Cursive Code book, and I found all the B words, etc. And I was just going to do it around Crack the Cursive Code and add it to my activity book and make it bigger. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone, and I thought, I'm just going to do it for Crack the Cursive Code. He goes, well, you're not going to do it for anything else? And I said, you're only going to do it for that? So there's my not word. And I went, well, and I got really firm and kind of rude to him. And I went, well, yeah, I'm just doing it for my book. And then I hung up the phone and I went, well, why am I keeping it so small? Why am I only keeping it for Crack the Cursive Code? And that's when it became something completely different. The I can do that came from a very sincere place. I have dabbled quite a bit in document editing programs like Canva, Photoshop, Microsoft Word, Be Funky. And if it's just working with pictures, I can do that. Little did I know. that I would have to learn a completely new program because Microsoft Word print to PDF was insufficient. But I digress. The labor part. Clearly, I wasn't fully dilated. I wonder if I should equate my experiences like that with this book on the nightmare birth. Oh, I just had a realization. My mom told me that I was a 3-day birth. Little did I know that I would have a 3-book birth. And that's what it feels like. But the baby is finally birthed. It's done. I'm telling you, I really had to struggle motivating myself to do this episode and finally birthing this. I am tired. I am tired birthing this series. And I just really am looking forward to finishing this. Okay. Touch on how let's go back to the question. Thank you, AI. Touch on how the artist was still involved at this stage, but the interior was your proving ground. Yes. She created the cover for the book, and I was very thankful for. I'm a really good responder. And that's one thing I've learned about myself through this entire process. I'm an excellent responder. You give me something, I can critique it and morph it into what I want and tell you what I want. And together we can create something like that. But for my coming forth with an idea 100%, that's where I have a really good skeleton, but I need to see what it looks like fleshed out. And she did a really good job on the cover. And I had a very strict budget, and she always gave me more than I paid her. And somehow, some way, when I am blessed with this, I would love to bless that woman for she really she did keep her part of the bargain and put her heart and soul into this thing. Number 2, you've mentioned the activity book connectors came later. How did that how did that decision impact the whole series? Well, I told you about the mom, and then it dawned on me, well, why don't I create a connector page? You could do one for every single letter. You could do A with A with B, A with C, A with D. And then with B, B with A, B with B, because there's like rubber has 2 B's, B with C, B with D. And there are 676 connectors from A to Z. And I thought, well, I can do that. Another round of contractions, babe. Here we go. Number 2, you've mentioned the activity book connectors came later. How did that decision impact the whole series? Holy shit. All right. When the idea to do the connectors came, I knew that I would have to reformat the book, because when you add pages to the book, the cover also has to be adjusted, because the cover size is dependent on how many pages you have. Of course, you think about a cover that has to go around a book that has 10 pages versus a book that has 300 pages. Even 1 to 2 pages can make a difference. I was also keeping in mind that since I had the critique on my original Kathy Duffer review that I never had enough practice pages, I knew that this was a perfect opportunity, that once you're changing the book, you might as well change it so the difference between 26 and 52 would be huge on the cover. I contacted my artist just as a check-in after we had done the puzzle book to show it to her, and she ghosted me. So in order to do this, I realized I'd have to do it on my own. I am a cut and paste queen. I'd say I'm an intermediate level. I'd say there's a lot of people that are way more creative than I am, and that's the problem for me, is being able to have an original idea. Canva's really good for that because it'll give me a template to work on, but I still am quite limited on my creativity with the programs. I'm getting a little better with it, but I'm still, I'd say, intermediate level. That was what concerned me, because sometimes getting artwork to work in what you want it to do, you have to be an expert level at some of these things. But I decided I was going to try it anyway and see how far I could get before I would have to ask for help. And that would be a last ditch effort. I thought, well, I'll just contact Fiverr maybe again. I had pretty good luck with them if I could need some help that way. So I took original pieces from what my artist had created and I just cut and pasted and created the connector pages. And I was very proud of myself. They took a lot of work, but it was a labor of love, really. That one, that's where you look back and you like a baby. I didn't realize it. I've been doing a lot of baby references. That's where you look back and realize that the pain was all worth it because the pages turned out beautifully and I was able to create them. The problem came when I had to learn a brand new program for, like I mentioned earlier, Amazon. The PDF from Microsoft was insufficient. I did some digging around on Google and found out that this program, when you upload your PDF from there, this PDF, it compresses the pictures properly. I suppose that it's acceptable to both Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But getting that to work in the program, if I had a dollar again, I would be a very rich woman. I even had to do a second publication of my puzzle book because of I realized that the mazes were a little off. But oh, that's a perfect segue to number 3. This book features 8 puzzle types across 11 subjects. How did you decide on those combinations? When looking for ways to create word searches, I stumbled upon a vast library of different types of online puzzles that you could create. When I saw Connect the Dots, I was super excited because I already had artwork from my activity book. And when I saw Complete the Picture, even though I personally, as a child, I hated that. It gave me quite a bit of anxiety when you take a full picture and then you see a partial picture and you take your artistic skills and finish it. I was never good at that. But then I saw that there were missing letters and I figured I could do that. I saw there was mazes and I could connect my characters again. I saw that there was cryptograms and that would be a perfect way to include capital letters. And there was unscramble the letters where that was such a nightmare. Two of the puzzles to create were so difficult for me. Unscramble the letters because my dyslexic brain wanted to put it correctly and I flipped them so many times, but the missing letters when you having the space and the missing letter be correct. Wow. Wow. That was a labor of love, let me tell you. So all in all, it became that there was going to be 8 different kinds of puzzles, and 8 seemed like a good number to me. So they were trace the words, connect the dots, word searches, mazes, solve the letters to match, complete the picture, unscramble the letters, and capital cryptograms. I did them in that order because that is also the order of difficulty. If you're just beginning, trace the words is great because you are recognizing the word with the picture and you're also doing your writing at that time too. And the connect the dots was also a younger age group could do that. The word searches makes it a little bit of a jump. The maze eases the mind a little, and then after that it gets increasingly more difficult. I wanted to be able to challenge everyone that wanted to be able to learn cursive. In regards to the subjects, I thought, well, I'm going to do something that is going to be cool for everyone, girl or a boy. It didn't matter to me. I wanted everyone to enjoy it. So I thought, what does everybody like? Well, generally, when you're doing learning, you'll do animals, you'll do space, sports, weather, months and seasons, musical instruments, and those are the general learning categories that everyone can learn. Then I thought, well, I already have cracked the cursive code and I will do numbers. I did numbers 1 to 20 and then multipliers like 30, 40, 50, etc. and ordinals of first, second, third, fourth, etc. Then I thought, well, I'll do all the states, but that's 50. That's quite a few. But when you're an American, if you're an American child, you will learn all the states. And then I also included Canada because I'm Canadian. And then bang, I had 11 subjects. But the beauty of the subjects is what I wanted was that animals would be under science. And so you could do science and language art at the same time because you're learning cursive and science. And how awesome for a homeschool mom if you have to do that in one day. We're having a fun day. Boom, you just checked off two subjects that were worked on. So eliminated the boredom, the busy work, and the bucks. Canceled the three B's. Number 4. At this point of your story, what did this book prove to you about yourself? It proved to me that I limit myself way too much and that I moved from being dependent to independent. That now I feel confident enough that I could create something on my own by myself. That puzzle book was created in 30 days. I just pushed myself. I'm sure it took maybe about 80 to 100 hours to create on top of my full time job. Every morning I would get up and work on it, and I had friends check on it. There was one thing that I created a fantasy one, like just fun things about around magic, and I kept it out of the original book because I knew that my homeschool environment would be the one that would use it a lot too. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just do another puzzle book simply based on that. I'm unsure. Maybe I'll do Religions of the World or something so that everyone can get a fair shake. Who knows? But I left the fantasy out of the original book, but it taught me that I have evolved as a person. I am now a publisher. I really did everything on the inside. It solved the did you write the story? Did you do this? Yes, I did every single part of it on the inside. That is all me. Every single part. I resourced uh all of the puzzle. I chose every single word that was going to be in that book, and then I formatted the entire thing myself, and I learned that I can do it. So who knows what's coming up next? Number 5. You named this episode after Bones, the steady, quiet one. What does he represent in the bigger story? I believe that Bones is the underestimated hero in in the story of Crack the Cursive Code. For he does two jobs. He saves the day and he makes a place safe. There are a few things I share with Fox as well, in his impatience and his um, impulsiveness. But with Bones, one of the things I share with him is that I am overlooked and underestimated, have saved the day in many instances in my life. And the second job is that he creates a safe space. And he creates a safe space for Chicken because Chicken is a very anxious person. And every time they come up with something new, Bones is the one there to make everything okay. And I relate with both of those, and because I do both of those things in my life, and I get great pleasure from that as well. Number 6. Sometimes the value of cursive shows up in places you'd least expect it. Can you share the story about the art teacher who stopped by your booth? Yes, the art teacher, he came up to my booth and we were talking about the benefits of cursive, and he said, "I just made the realization that my art program is suffering because they've taken cursive writing out of schools." And we both went, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I never made the correlation that cursive writing is really good for creating flow and minute fine motor skills. And my students are having struggles with painting with paintbrushes, etc., because they no longer have those fine motor skills." It's amazing on how when ideas are presented that they just go boom and never realize that we really are throwing the baby out with the bathwater when we threw cursive out. And if we had to keep one or the other, we should have kept printing for the typewriter and writing for the humans and skipped printing altogether. Because if we had to choose one, which one is the most beneficial, especially with AI now, that is all in print and they can read print. If they would have taught cursive writing and kept that, think of all the benefits, then there would be a great decrease in dysgraphia as well as dyslexia, because dysgraphia is how the hand has a difficulty doing the movements, and dyslexia is where the brain has a difficulty reading it. And cursive writing is the bridge between both of those. Number 7. What would you say were the killers of cursive? It never dawned on me that there were two other contributors to the decline of cursive. I always thought it was just technology, the typewriter, because cursive writing was the only known way of record keeping at that time and communication. And so when the internet and the typewriter came in, the digital age, it changed a lot, because then we were able to communicate in a much more effective way, and writing it out became cumbersome. Little did I know that there were two other contributing factors. The first contributor actually happened before the typewriter, which surprised me. And I found that out when I received a newspaper article from The Atlantic in the technology section, and it said how the ballpoint pen killed cursive, and it's by Josh Giesbrecht. And I'm only going to read a short portion of it here, but it really sums it up, because it says fountain pens want to connect letters where ballpoint pens need to be convinced. And here it starts, quote, in her book, Teach Yourself Better Handwriting, the handwriting expert and type designer Rosemary Sassoon notes that, quote, most of us need a flexible way of writing, fast, almost a scribble for ourselves to read, and progressively slower and more legible for other purposes, end of quote. Comparing unjoined print to joined writing, and that's interesting. That gives me a flashback to when I was getting my story created, because they were the joined up writing journey is what they started it with. And I'm like, what the fuck is joined up writing? And then I realized that that is what they call cursive. To continue on, she goes, comparing unjoined print to joined writing, she points out that separate letters can seldom be as fast as joined ones. So, if joined handwriting is supposed to be faster, why would I switch away from it at a time when I most when I, whoa, why would I switch away from it at a time when I most need to write quickly? Given the amount of time I spend on computers, it would be easy for an opinionated observer to count my handwriting as another victim of computer technology. But I knew script. I used it throughout high school, and I shifted away from it during the time when I was writing most. My experience with fountain pens, writer Josh, his perspective, suggests a new answer. Perhaps it's not digital technology that hindered my writing, but the technology that I was holding as I put pen to paper. Fountain pens want to connect letters. Ballpoint pens need to be convinced to write, need to be pushed into the paper rather than merely touching it. The number 2 pencil I used for math notes weren't much of a break either, requiring pressure similar to that of a ballpoint pen. So, moreover, digital technology didn't really take off until the fountain pen had already began its decline and the ballpoint to rise. So, the ballpoint pen became popular at roughly the same time as mainframe computers. Sassoon's analysis of how we're taught to hold pens makes a much stronger case for the role of ballpoint in the decline of cursive. She explains that the type of pen grip taught in contemporary grade school is the same grip that's been used for generations, long before everyone wrote with ballpoints. However, writing with ballpoints and other modern pens requires that they placed at a greater, more upright angle to the paper, a position that's generally uncomfortable with a traditional pen hold. Even before computer keyboards turned so many people into carpal tunnel even before computer keyboards turned so many people into carpal tunnel sufferers, the ballpoint pen was already straining hands and wrists. Here, Sassoon says, we must find ways of holding modern pens that will enable us to write without pain. We also need to encourage efficient letters suited to modern pens. Unless we begin to do something sensible about both letters and pen holds, we will contribute more to the demise of handwriting than the coming of the computer has done. Well, computers and ballpoint pens are one and two punch in regards to the kill of cursive, but there's something else that I find is the biggest killer of cursive, and that is judgment and perfectionism. For you see, at one time when we all grew up, cursive writing was a means of communication, so it had to be legible, okay? Because we were communicating and recording for other people to continuously read. But I'm very excited. This is kind of a really fun way to remember the benefits of cursive is what do FARTs, F-A-R-T, and that's an acronym that we'll learn in number 4, and cursive writing have in common? Well, number 1 is that it doesn't have to be pretty to be effective. Farts are like, there's nothing pretty about a fart, but it is very effective. And what I mean by this is that we have spent so much time on the perfectionism of the skill, and no disrespect because it was necessary, that we lost the reason why we were doing it. In the past, legibility was the primary focus of cursive, and the whole neurological benefit and aid with reading was completely overlooked, making it easy to take out of schools. I think that perfectionism now should take a back seat because that leads me to number 2 of what farts and cursive writing have in common is that it's best done in private. See, now the magic is in the mess, my friends, because we no longer have to be so strict with cursive. If you want to do something that needs to be read by someone else, then great. But we had a real problem when I was growing up because my cursive is legible. And if I was writing something for myself to get my feelings out on paper, because that's one of the things that there's something magic that happens with when the cursive touches the paper that brings clarity and it just helps you. But my writing was legible, so if someone found my diary or my journal, I would be mortified because people could read it. But now you no longer have to have it legible to experience the benefits. Think about it. How often in life do we have it that when you do something poorly, you still get the benefits? And some people have had, you look at some of the people in my generation that had to do consistent amounts of writing, and their writing still sucks because it is still a skill. So when you put the perfectionism on it, there are some people that will never do well at it. Just like you can never be able to sing a song or paint a picture or play a musical instrument. Some people just suck. And some people will suck at cursive writing. So if you make it all about making the perfect C instead of getting the flow of the C through the body and the benefit, that, my friends, is what killed cursive. And this puts me perfectly into the segue for number 3 of it relieves pressure where needed. Cursive is the answer for dyslexia in the ways that the letter reversals, either side to side or up and down, are minimized because of the flow. There is very little chance for the brain to disconnect from the learning. You think about if you write the word, any word out, if you write letters out in print, how many times the pen comes off the paper. And that is perfect time for the mind to go, I'm out, because it's boring and it's something against, it's something to be learned, something that needs practice. Much like if you were going to learn how to swim or anything to do with sports or musical instruments, this relieves the pressure in reading, especially because it allows the body to be the teacher. The body never lies. You have to really, really train your body to lie. That's why the polygraph test was invented, because the body never lies. So if you allow the body to learn the word, the body will always direct the mind to understand it correctly. But if you go for the mind first, then that's where the disconnect comes in. And the fourth reason why farts are like what farts and cursive writing have in common, because it's the best brain because it's the best brain fart fixer. Because a fart is when you forget all rational thought. If you really want to streamline and get to the heart of a problem, whether mentally, emotionally, spiritually, How many times, if you've ever gone to talk to a counselor, their number one go to thing for you to do is to journal? When you journal, something connects your head and your heart and your body and your soul, and all four work together to create something. It allows your emotion and your thought to work together so that you can work out your problems. It changes you to go from one place to another. Now, it can take you backward as well, as if all you're focusing on is the negative. It can do that as well. It has the power to amplify. So if you write for improvement, it will improve you. If you write for destruction, it'll destroy you. It is a tool. It is neutral like anything else, but it has the power to move you from one place to another. To sum up the first three, there is a misunderstanding that the power of cursive writing is in the perfection of the skill. The true magic happens because of the challenge between the combining of focus and fine motor skills. Once proficiency creates a flow state, this my friends is where we've missed the boat. This is where we go with the flow. Once proficiency creates a flow state, cursive writing has served its purpose. To prevent history from repeating itself and the demise of cursive, do you think we could achieve a balance between the need for the perfection of penmanship and what our children need to just cursive write? We accomplish absolutely nothing if the perfect writer never writes. Instead, I wonder if we could introduce this skill in a similar manner to what my boys experienced with their swimming lessons. At first, there was a more academic approach, and we had these badges. I remember these badges. It was the Red Cross swimming program, and you had to pass these certain proficiency levels to get the badge. And there were so many kids that were deflated because they could never get past the badge. And there was such a negative feeling about swimming because it became about whether or not a child wanted to be a athlete or a swimmer. So then they came up with this great idea of doing whether or not you could just proficiently swim to save your life. It was called Swim for Life, is what it was called. And my boys were taking it in school, and my son was at a certain, I think he was at level blue. It was colored at that time. And he couldn't get past this certain one on the breaststroke. It stumped him. I believe it was the breaststroke. And then next thing you know, he was put in Swim for Life and he went to level 4 immediately because the boy could swim and it gave him the confidence to swim. And I wonder if we're doing the same thing here with cursive writing because we're all about whether or not you make the perfect A instead of writing the fucking A in the first place. Fucking A. Writing the A in the first place. Because if the pen never touches the paper because of perfectionism, then we've accomplished absolutely nothing. And our society stays stuck where it is. So the magic is in the mess. Let your child learn how to write first in the way that their body allows them to do it. If you are going to do something that is going to be publicly displayed, like given to a grandmother, writing out something, a poem, or writing out a recipe, anything that would require them to use the cursive writing on public display, have them study or practice that first and make them perfect that. Another way you could do it is take the pangram sentence like I have and work on one word because each word tackles different letters and they could learn to write that perfectly. And once they learn that, then Bob is their uncle as well. But can we just relax on the penmanship aspect of it? And it's tough being a mom and being a perfectionist. Oh my God, to allow them to do something messy. But if messy makes their brain work, then why not? Number 4, now with the fear of exposure dealt with and that out of the way, we can focus on the true power of cursive writing. Einstein said it best. He is considered one of the most famous left-handed people, by the way, and he believed that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use that created them. When we encounter a problem, as soon as we realize that we need understanding, our mind goes blank. I know mine does. It just goes poof, out it goes, as if all rational thought blew out our ears. A brain fart. And a brain fart FART stands for forget all rational thought. The best thing to do at that moment is to write in cursive. This amazing skill will make you, the writer, come back to the present moment and back into your body by giving it something to focus on. This simple kinetic exercise of pen on the paper allows the brain to do its magic of opening new pathways to better understanding. With the joining of each letter, neurons are firing in the brain, encouraging new ideas of form. With the joining of each letter, neurons are firing in the brain, encouraging new ideas to form. So, I just had the brilliant idea that when you take the pangram sentence, crack the cursive code, have the child learn the pangram sentence, have them do it at the beginning of every homeschool or education session, however they can get it on the paper. If they can read it, it's extra points. If it's illegible, who cares? But it will allow the brain to wake up. That would give them enough of a wake up start and a fresh start, a jump start to the day. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. You found out about how to self-publish a book in 30 days. You also learned how the connectors changed everything and challenged me to be able to open up my mind to becoming a publisher more than just an artist. Instead of just being a producer. And then last but not least, it had a fun way of connecting farts and cursive writing, so you saw the benefits where the magic is in the mess, my friends. Allow yourself to have free expression and let it flow, and you'll be able to get into a different place. Until then, if this episode resonated with you, you can contact me on Facebook or Instagram. You can also shoot me a message on hashtag HeyJax on Reddit. You can check out my loser, shift, and fourth worth merchandise, as well as all my Crack the Cursive Code stuff. Oh, forgot to mention that my puzzles are sold individually as PDFs. So if you only want the animals puzzle set, you can get the puzzle set for just that. As well, leave me a 5-star review. It really helps me and helps other people find this little show. Until that time, write messy, dream loud. Jax out.